From the Oklahoman newsroom, this is a Varsity update. I'm Jenny Carlson here in studio with Cameron Jordan, high school sports writer. Cam, next to last week for the regular season of the high school football schedules, and lots of districts up in the air, lots of games that are really going to be competitive. Let's start looking at the big class, 6A. You've got Mustang, Putnam North, one of your top games, also Edmond Santa Fe, Jenks. A lot of 6A games to digest here.
Yeah, there's a lot of really big matchups in 6A this week. You mentioned Edmond Santa Fe and Jenks, so we'll start there. That's going to be a big one up for the Wolves up in the Tulsa area. You know, a couple weeks ago they went up there and upset Broken Arrow 23-21. They're tied with Jenks right now at the top of the district at 4-1, and it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out, because if Santa Fe wins, they are going to secure a playoff spot and can arguably host a first-round playoff game over Jenks or Broken Arrow since they already have the victory. But with a loss, they haven't quite clinched a playoff berth yet, and they'll have to have another big week. So it's kind of it's a really difficult week for them. Yeah. Whereas in Jenks' case, Jenks started off the season really rough, starting 1-3, but has since rolled, and they look, with a win like this, they could arguably clinch the district title, just kind of based off the point situation and everything. But they'll have to obviously perform well again next week, but a win for them would be huge as well. And then, like you said, you mentioned Mustang, Putnam North. Yeah. That's another really big game with some district implications. Neither team is probably going to be fighting for the district title. They're just going to be fighting to get in. Yeah. A win almost guarantees a playoff spot. I mean, that's how it is, especially in 6A this year. A win for either of those teams can almost guarantee a playoff spot, while a loss could mean that they're fighting to just even make the playoffs. In Mustang's case, they have the big win over Tulsa Union back in Week 5. They're coming off they played Owasso as tight as any team has played Owasso this year last week. Yeah. So and of course, you can say the conditions or anything mattered with that, but Mustang is playing really, really well right now, and Putnam North has lost 2 of its last 3 games. So that one's going to be really interesting to kind of see who comes out on top and really gives themselves a bump to go into the playoffs.
Yeah, well, another 6A1 matchup involving 2 West Side teams, Norman and Westmore, and both of those teams sitting 3-2 right now in district as well. So, I mean, you talk about win and you're sitting pretty, but lose and the sledding gets tough at this point.
Yeah, and this is something that hurt Westmore last year and helped Norman. Norman had to win its final 2 games, get into the playoffs, and Norman did just that. Yeah. Last year, Westmore lost its final 2 games, didn't get into the playoffs, and so that hurt them as well. So really, this matchup, if you lose, it's going to be really hard to get into the playoffs, because Norman faces Edmond Santa Fe next week, whereas Westmore is going to be taking on Jenks. So you're going to have a really difficult time. Both those matchups are going to be really big next week as well. So if you win this week, you really want to try to secure a win against each other instead of have to go to next week fighting for that one win. Wow,
it's going to be tough. Let's look at a lower classification, 3A. That's your number 2 game this week, Cam, between John Marshall and Perkins Tryon, which sort of a resurgent Perkins Tryon. We haven't sort of talked about them much in these top games, but here they sit just a 1 loss on their resume. This is a 1 loss versus 1 loss matchup here. This is a pretty good small school game.
Yeah, and you mentioned both teams' only losses to Heritage Hall, so not terribly shabby. Perkins Tryon actually took Heritage Hall to the brink. Had a tie game with the ball with less than 20 seconds left, and they were going for the win, and threw an interception. Philip Smith for Heritage Hall, who's been one of the top players in the state I've seen all year, picked it off and returned it for a touchdown. But this matchup is going to be about Perkins Tryon's strength against John Marshall's speed. John Marshall has more speed than Perkins Tryon, but Perkins Tryon has more strength than John Marshall. Whoever can win that battle is going to come out on top of this matchup, and I don't know who to give the advantage to as of right now, but it'll be an interesting one to see the score of this on Friday.
Now, are those 2 teams both likely to host Heritage Hall's in that district too, right?
Yeah,
this winner's probably to host, right?
That's the big thing with this matchup. Both teams are going to be in the playoffs, but this is for the 2nd seed in the district. It's likely for the 2nd and the 3rd seed in the district. If you win, you're hosting a first-round playoff game. If you lose, you're hitting the road. So there's a little challenge for it.
Now, the one thing you said, you're not ready to predict a winner in that matchup, but can you predict at least some nicer weather? Last week was kind of it was a slog for people to go out and watch football last week.
Yeah, it wasn't the best weather for football. Some football coaches would say it was football weather, and I even joked with a couple of football coaches, like, man, this is football weather, as I'm standing getting pelted by rain on the game, talking with them before. But no, there's going to be better weather this week. I mean, it's only going to be in about the 50s from the last forecast I saw, but no rain, and that is definitely a good thing. I'm sure all the players and coaches and fans will be happy about that.
I think players like rain okay, but man, sitting out in rain and cold, that is no fun. But yeah, it sounds like it's just going to be a cool fall Friday for people going out to watch those football games. Be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at Oklahoman.com and every day in the Oklahoman.